When we talk about water, we believe water is a everyday thing. We drink, we wash, we shower, etc., etc., and we use water laxly. But let us talk a little bit about water in detail. So, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the power of water, the percentage of water, water and health, effects on water, and its benefits to be harnessed. So, let us look at some of these things. So, when we talk about water, we know water is H2O as per chemistry. It is defined as aqua pura in French or Latin, jour in Bengali, pani in Hindi, tanni in Tamil, jala in Sanskrit, and you in French or Latin. So water power. So what are we talking about when we say water power? Let us try to understand that a little bit. There is a rule of three applicable generally. There are always exceptions to every rule, but as a general rule this applies. We know water is essential for life. We are aware that man can go without air for 3 minutes before he starts to suffer and eventually die. We know that man can go without water for 3 days and then heads towards impending death. We also know that man can go without food for 3 weeks before he succumbs to starvation. Now these are the rule of three that is applied. But remember, I have said there are always exceptions. So there are people who go without air for 4, 5, 6 minutes and they are perfectly healthy. We have come across people who go without water for 7 days and they don't die. They may deteriorate, but they don't die. And we have seen people be on a fast for 90 days, etc., and they don't die either. So exceptions are always there. Now let us understand the power of water. What is the instinct of water? Natural instinct of water is to flow from a high level to a low level. So if you try to put water anywhere on top of a hill or a tall building or whatever and let it flow, it will naturally flow down to the lowest level available. We know that water arises from rain, which is actually evaporated water from the oceans. Everybody knows that. Now we also know that irrespective of where it rains, the natural instinct of water is to reunite with the ocean. Water strives to move in that direction from land, above the land, or under the earth as well. There are tremendous amounts of underwater systems under the earth that flow that we are not aware of. So what is the instinct of water? Water in any form, whether it is snow, ice from peaks like Arctic, Antarctica, Himalayas, Andes and other mountain peaks. When it gets converted from solid snow and ice into water, it starts its epic journey to meet its master or mother, whatever way we look at it, towards the oceans. Similarly, the water within us also drives us to various things. And this is the important bit to understand. Nature and all living things have a large percentage of water as part of their composition, over 70%. Whether it's in the earth, which has got over 70%, or whether it is in the human body and other living beings, there is a minimum of 70% water or more. Continuing on the instinct of water, we are well aware of ocean seas rising and falling based on the phases of the moon. This means the moon controls the tides. Again, we are well aware of that. Everybody talks about it. We even measure it. We have got normal tides which may be about 6 inches or a foot change every morning and evening. Or we have got big tides in certain positions where it can rise by a few meters, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meters in the morning and 7 meters in the evening, changing the whole structure of the situation or the layout in that part of the world over those 12 hours. Now imagine if the water of the oceans, which is a massive amount of water, can be raised and lowered by many meters every day. Does it not make sense that our body water also can be influenced in some way, although not visibly for us? I will repeat it again. If the water of the oceans can be raised and lowered by many meters every day, it may be like one part of the earth gets raised, the other part of the earth, the water goes down, so the tides change accordingly. But similar thing may happen to the human body. So if the water in the oceans can be raised or lowered by many meters every day, does it not make sense that our body water also can be influenced in some way, although not visibly for us? Now, an interesting thing to observe: the tidal changes are not noticed by a sailor on the high seas. On the high seas in a ship, he doesn't know that the high tide has come in or the low tide has come in. The water looks the same. But the changing tidal scenario or the water levels are clearly evident at the beach or the shoreline, where water levels rise and fall, and you can see the difference. Similarly, we ourselves may not notice the effect of the moon or other planets on the human body. I've said other planets because they may have some influence, but we have not studied it to that extent. But others can possibly see the changes it's doing to us, whether in our behavior, moods, etc. We know for a fact that during long winter periods, we tend to feel down. As soon as spring and summer arrive with sunshine, our moods, feelings, and energies are elevated and positive. We all have changes in our demeanor during full moon and no moon days. Only extreme changes are noticeable. Minor ones go unnoticed. That is not because changes don't happen. That is because the changes are happening from our perspective, where we are actually unable to observe those subtle changes. So when we come to the human instinct, like water, natural tendency of man is to flow towards the ultimate union with the Atma, soul, spirit, or the unseen force within you, or the force of creation, etc., whatever you may call it. Failing that, we can feel unfulfilled. Our essential desire for food, shelter, and clothing, and betterment of ourselves is a primal instinct. Once that is fulfilled, all the material achievements are fulfilled. One starts to review our values in life. That is when realization happens. Possibly then our quest for this union with the ultimate begins. Like everything in life, it's all difficult and a long journey. So the quality of water, it is essential for life. So the quality of water in terms of having clean water, etc., is very important for us. The proportion of water in the body has to be in the right proportions. The amount of water has to be in the right proportions. Nature has about 70% in the earth, and most of the living beings have at least 70%. Water has got, according to the Chinese acupuncture theory, a very yin quality. Water can mix with everything, and funnily enough, it cleanses everything, whether it is the oil spills in Alaska or Mexico, where the sea churns it out and cleans it out over a few years. Of course, there is loss of animal life and there is damage to the ecology, etc. Nobody is denying that. But that oil does not stay there forever. It gets cleaned out over time. Similarly, water can cleanse everything within our body as well. Or when we wash our clothes. So what is the power of water? It has got healing properties. We don't think about it much. We love a cold water wash or a cold shower on a hot day. We feel energized. We feel good. We love a cold drink on a hot day to cool us down. By the same token, we love a hot drink of tea, coffee on a cold day. We love a hot shower or a sauna on a cold day or in wintry conditions. We love cold spring water or rainwater or mountain water. Now, we are not talking about bottled water here. We are talking about water flowing through the rocks, coming through the springs, rainwater flowing through the mountains, coming down the mountains, and the freshness it has. This water freshens us up when hot or cold. Nothing is as refreshing and thirst quenching as a fresh, cool glass of natural spring water. And I'm not talking about the bottled water, I'm talking about the fresh spring water or the mountain water. So, when we look at water power, we are talking about healing with water, external and internal. Water as a cleanser, neutralizer, energizer. Now, I'll share with you the experiences of one of my friends whose father was a great guru. We call him Zawar Guruji. When he had this friend of mine as a young baby, maybe 6 months, 12 months old, a child, he was quite sick. And at that time, Jawar Guruji was actually learning naturopathy. He had just started learning naturopathy. Now, this child was so sick that the doctors gave up on the child and said, look, hope and pray to God and everything will be okay. We can't do anything. We have done what we can. So Jawar Guruji, who had obviously an inner desire for his son's welfare and who suddenly found a brick wall in front of him which said, there is nothing we can do, the child is left to die. If he survives, he survives. He thought, I've learned natural therapies. One of the things they taught me in natural therapy is use fresh air, use sunshine, keep the bowels empty, and life will thrive. And since he was immature in that, but his son's fate was in his hands, he decided to try that. So he decided to have the child's room, open all the windows, have fresh air come in, give plenty of fluids, wash the child with hot and cold water, and see what happens. And very quickly he found that the child was dirtying nappies much more than before. And then he thought, my teacher has told me that emptying the bowels helps. And since the child had 2 or 3 dirty nappies within a space of few hours, he thought things are going in the right direction. But somehow he happened to talk to his wife and say, this child, when he was okay, how many nappies was he dirtying every day? And the mother said about 6 or 7. And Zawar Guruji had a shock. He said he has done only 3, 6 or 7. So he's not having diarrhea. He's actually cleansing. So he persevered with his conviction and the treatment of fresh air, cold and hot packs of water being used on the body. And then he found that the child emptied more often, had 6 or 7 bowel motions, but as he was doing so, his health improved. And then today he is close to 60 and living his life wonderfully. Zawar Guruji unfortunately is no more, but he has passed on most of his knowledge to his son, and the son is an ardent follower of natural therapies. He believes in it. And do you blame him? And he's a strong advocate for natural therapies. And such are the miracles of the use of water. Water power has got internal healing. Drinking water in various forms, small quantities, large quantities, etc. In the form of tea, decoction, cold or hot drinks, in form of medicine, etc. Flushing process of the body, either bringing out vomiting by drinking lots of water, which is happening in yoga where they talk about cleansing the body, or through stools where you flush the body out. Water tends to dilute things. And one of the interesting things that the Bengali language throws up, they talk about jol khabo. Khabo means to eat. Now, when we first heard about it as a child, we used to laugh about it. How can one eat water? But today, when I understand natural therapy is a bit better, we talk about drinking your food and eating your water. What do we mean by that? We don't just guzzle the water, letting it go down to the stomach just like that. we mix it with saliva. So when we talk about joule carbo, my definition today is you have a mouthful of water, mix it with saliva, and suddenly find that the water becomes thicker when it's mixed with saliva, and then it is sent to the stomach so that complete digestion happens.